$15 billion of Japanese investment pledges. House panel asserts deliberations on charter change proposals. Earthquake causes $84 billion in damage to Turkey's economy alone. U.S. holds drills in South China Sea amid tensions with China.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. brought home more than $13 billion in investment pledges from his 5-day trip to Japan. Eden Santos tells us more.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is happy to return to the Philippines carrying good news for Filipinos. The president had productive meetings with leaders and businessmen from his 5-day official visit to Tokyo, Japan. Marcos received more than 13 billion pesos worth of agreements that are expected to provide thousands of jobs to Filipinos. The president's visit to Japan included a bilateral meeting between him and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, a courtesy visit to Majesty's Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako of Japan held at the Imperial Palace, the signing of 35 letters of intent or agreements between the Philippines and Japan, as well as a high-power luncheon and networking event organized by the premier Japanese business organizations.
Coming back, we carry with us over 13 billion US dollars in contributions and pledges to benefit our people, create approximately 24,000 jobs, and further solidify the foundations of our economic environment.
Meanwhile, the president said that many people have been helped and rescued by the Philippine contingent sent to Turkey. The Philippine government is also planning to help Syria. President Marcos said they are trying to find a way to send aid to Syria despite a difficult situation there. Eden Santos for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
After President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s state visit to Japan, the Department of Trade and Industry is ready to implement the secured investment deals. Celine Dorado with the details.
The Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, is ready to implement several investment deals between the Philippines and Japan, following the 5-day visit of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to Japan. According to Trade Secretary Alfredo Pascual, some investment agreements and pledges are ready to be implemented. The Philippine delegation to Tokyo has secured 35 investment pledges covering business interests in infrastructure, energy, manufacturing, healthcare, telecommunications, and more. This was the result of Marcos's visit to Japan for a 5-day official visit from February 8 to 12. Trade Undersecretary Seferino Rodolfo said the DTI was tracking about $10 billion, or about 500 billion to 550 billion pesos in investment pledges from Marcos's trip to Japan. However, Pascual said the official figures would come from the president himself. Pascual also cited the Japanese car maker Toyota as an example, which had previously announced that it would return its popular model Tamarao to the Philippine market. He said the Japanese company will invest more than 4 billion pesos in the Philippines, which the agency is already looking forward to. The DTI said earlier that 240 Philippine companies and 1,000 Japanese companies consisting of more than 3,000 entrepreneurs registered for the meetings held in Tokyo, which sealed a wide range of cooperation between the government and business leaders in Philippines and Japan. Celine Dorado for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Some members of the Senate will push to amend the economic provisions of the 1987 Constitution. This despite President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. having said the Philippines can get foreign investments even without the charter change. Mian Corvera has the details.
Senator Robin Padilla insists the Senate will push for amendments to the economic provisions of the Constitution. The Senate will continue to deliberate even after President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said charter change or cha-cha is not his priority. Marcos also believes Philippines can get foreign investments even without amending the 1987 Constitution. Padilla asserts consultations will happen whether or not his fellow senators will support cha-cha or Marcos will veto the proposal. He says if economic provisions will not be amended, ordinary workers would not feel economic progress. He explains investments and business pledges of foreign investors remain as promises. Yet, Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva claims a cha-cha proposal is not among the list of urgent measures of the two houses. Mian Corvera for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
The House of Representatives has provided financial assistance to the victims of the massive earthquake in Turkey. Randy Bernardino files this report.
The lower house of Congress has provided financial assistance to the victims of the massive earthquake in Turkey. House Speaker Martin Romualdez said the funds were drawn from the Office of the Speaker Disaster Relief and Rehabilitation Initiative from donations from congressmen who were members of the 19th Congress. Romualdez added that the initiative to help the victims of the Turkey earthquake was a reflection of the Philippines' gratitude to the country that was one of the first to send aid during the onslaught of Super Typhoon Yolanda in November 2013. Moreover, Romualdez said the Office of the Speaker personally handed over $100,000 to Turkey Ambassador to the Philippines, Niyazi Evren Aykyol. The earthquake that struck Turkey has left more than 30,000 people dead and is continuously increasing as search and retrieval operations with the Philippines humanitarian contingent are underway. Randy Bernardino for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Through the help of Philippine authorities and embassies, 8 Filipino victims of human trafficking in Myanmar have safely returned to the Philippines. Nadine Aguilar files this report.
8 Filipino victims of human trafficking rescued by Philippine authorities and embassies in Myanmar have returned to the Philippines. According to the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA, the Filipinos arrived in the country at 5:25 a.m. at Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 1. Among the victims are 4 Filipino men who were recruited online from Dubai to work as customer support representatives in Thailand. But instead of Thailand, they were taken to Myanmar and forced to cheat individuals to invest in cryptocurrency. The 4 others who have returned to the country are the 4 Filipinos who were detained for allegedly entering Myanmar illegally from Thailand. The DFA reminded Filipinos that it is illegal for foreigners to cross the Myanmar-Thai Friendship Bridge or cross a river between the two countries. The legal entry points for foreigners including Filipinos are at Yangon, Mandalay, and Nai Piai Dao airports. The DFA also advised Filipinos to be careful with the job offers on social media to avoid becoming victims of illegal recruitment and human trafficking. Nadine Aguilar, for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Philippine National Police plans to appoint a permanent police attaché in the United Arab Emirates. This is to ensure the safety and well-being of Filipinos working and living in the Gulf state. Vin Pascua files this report.
Philippine National Police Chief General Rodolfo Azorin Jr. is considering the appointment of a permanent police attaché in the United Arab Emirates. Azorin says the plan was made during the sidelines of the 7-day 24th Asian Regional Conference of the International Criminal Police Organization. The objective of posting permanent police attaché in UAE is to help overseas Filipino workers. Azorin explains this would also ensure the safety and welfare of Filipino citizens living in the Gulf state. As of now, there are few selected police attaché abroad. They are in China, Indonesia, Malaysia, France, Saudi Arabia, New York, and San Francisco, USA. Azorin says if they cannot post permanent police attaché in UAE, they will request for an issuance of non-resident status. He believes these actions will make the OFWs feel that there is government for them when they need help.
The reason why we are contemplating of posting permanent na police attaché sa Dubai or sa Abu Dhabi, ang pinag-aaralan natin kasi dito is nasaan ba yung convergence ng Filipino community sa mga areas na nandoon ang ating mga OFW, because hindi lamang yung pagkalap natin ng mga informations about sa other countries, but the PNP should be there to also serve yung Filipino community. Ano ba ang problema nila doon na na-encounter, so that through the PNP we can coordinate with our counterpart doon para na-assist ang ating mga kababayan na nagkakaroon ng problema doon. And at the same time, baka nandoon sila and then may problema naman sila dito.
I am Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Finance Secretary Benjamin Diokno sees the modernization of agriculture as a tool against inflation. The secretary says modern farming equipment will quickly help ease inflation woes. He also encourages developments in fishing, livestock, and other agricultural occupations. The government will invest modern equipment for post-harvest and will continue the distribution of organic and bio and fertilizers, quality seeds, and seedlings. Diokno adds the price of food will decrease when there is a lot of agricultural production. The inflation rate first hit at 8.7% in January of 2023, which is higher than 8.1% in December of 2022.
Good news for drivers using diesel and kerosene. A big-time rollback is expected for these two petroleum products, while the price of gasoline remains the same. The price adjustment of petroleum products will be simultaneous among Chevron Philippines and independent player Clean Fuel later at 12 midnight. The rollback price of diesel per liter is 2 pesos and 20 centavos, while kerosene will go down by 2 pesos and 50 centavos per liter. Meanwhile, Philippines Shell, Sea Oil Philippines, and Jetty Petroleum will follow up with price adjustments tomorrow. This is the second consecutive week's rollback in diesel and kerosene.
Pagasa says the trough of a low-pressure area will bring cloudy skies with scattered rain showers and thunderstorms in Visayas and Mindanao. Metro Manila and the rest of Luzon will experience partly cloudy to at times cloudy skies with light rains due to the northeast monsoon or amihan. Pagasa explains there is a little chance for a low-pressure area to enter the Philippine area of responsibility and become a typhoon.
Coming up, the earthquake's damages could cost Turkey $84 billion. Chinese crypto scams target Filipinos to work for them. And India discovers the country's biggest lithium deposit. Mata ng Agila International. We'll be right back after this short break. Don't go away.
Let's live together. Sunday 25.
The news continues here on Mata ng Agila International. Rescuers have recovered more survivors from the bottom of debris a week after a 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck Turkey and Syria, killing more than 36,000 people. A boy and a 62-year-old woman are the latest rescued to have been trapped in the wreckage of collapsed buildings since last Monday. According to Turkey's disaster agency, more than 32,000 people from Turkish organizations are conducting search and rescue efforts, including 8,294 international rescuers.
The devastating earthquakes that struck Turkey and Syria could wreak $84 billion worth of damage in Turkey alone, according to a business group cited by Bloomberg. The group's figure is dramatically higher than previous estimates. Bloomberg reported the likely price tag on Sunday, citing an unnamed Turkish business group. Earlier this week, the U.S.-based Fitch Ratings agency claimed that economic losses appear likely to exceed $2 billion and could reach $4 billion or more. Bank of America put the figure at around $3 to $5 billion, plus at least another $2 to $3 billion needed for supporting impacted people. A price tag of $84 billion would represent more than a tenth of Turkey's gross domestic product.
A Hungarian foreign minister says the European Union's calls to keep supporting Ukraine with arms shipments will only prolong the conflict in Russia. Or with Russia. Speaking to Radio Kasuth, Peter Sijaro commented on recent remarks by President of the European Parliament, Roberta Metsola, who pushed for fighter jets and long-range weapons to be sent to Kyiv. Sijarto says EU lawmakers' decisions on Ukraine have generally caused damage to Europe, and further weapons deliveries will only worsen the hostilities. The minister went on to question the West's anti-Russia sanctions. He argues that they have failed to force Moscow to end the conflict. He notes Europe's economy has faced incredible difficulties. Sijarto comments that the 10th sanctions package will only be suitable for causing further damage to Europeans.
Elon Musk asserts SpaceX will not allow its system to be used to start World War III. He also explains his decision to restrict the use of its Starlink internet system by the Ukrainian military. The SpaceX owner says he doesn't want the conflict to escalate into World War III. Musk's explanation is to address astronaut Scott Kelly's statement. Kelly previously urged the CEO to fully restore the functionality of the SpaceX system in Ukraine.
The United States Navy and Marine Corps are holding joint exercises in the South China Sea at a time of heightened tensions with Beijing over the shooting down of a suspected Chinese spy balloon. The 7th Fleet, based in Japan, said Sunday the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier strike group and the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit have been conducting integrated expeditionary strike force operations in the South China Sea. It said exercises involving ships, ground forces, and aircraft took place Saturday, but gave no details on when that began or whether they had ended. China claims virtually the entire South China Sea and strongly objects to military activity by other nations in the contested waterway through which $5 trillion in goods are shipped every year.
Beijing claims that Washington had sent balloons into its airspace more than 10 times since January of 2022. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin says the U.S. balloons entered China without any approval from Chinese authorities. Wang also insists that the U.S. change its course and introspect itself rather than smear and accuse China. He says Beijing's handling of U.S. balloons entering its airspace was responsible and professional.
The Philippine Coast Guard says a Chinese security vessel flashed a military-grade laser light at a Philippine patrol boat in the disputed South China Sea, temporarily blinding crew members. The PCG said in a statement that the incident happened on February 6, nearly 20 kilometers from 2nd Thomas Shoal in the Spratly Islands, where Philippine Marines are stationed. Days before this latest incident, the United States and the Philippines agreed to resume joint patrols in the sea and struck a deal to give U.S. troops access to another 4 military bases in Southeast Asia or in the Southeast Asian country. The Chinese ministry has responded to the Philippines' accusation. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin says the Philippine boat had intruded into China's sovereign waters without permission.
Chinese criminals running cryptocurrency scams in Southeast Asia are targeting Filipinos to work for them because of their English language and computer skills. Eduardo de Vega, the acting Undersecretary for Migrant Workers Affairs at the Department of Foreign Affairs, says Filipinos are prize targets for scam networks operating in Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia. De Vega said efforts to repatriate Filipinos sucked into the scam activities were ongoing, with more than 100 brought home since last year. The Undersecretary notes Filipino recruits would pretend to be women and develop online relationships with their targets, usually a Westerner. They receive a wage and get a share of the profits, but are subjected to corporal punishment if they do not scam enough people. Around 50 to 70 Filipinos are believed to be still working for Chinese scammers operating in Myanmar. De Vega estimates there are another 50 Filipinos working for cryptocurrency scams in Cambodia and 50 in Laos.
The Indian government has announced a discovery of 5.9 million tons of lithium in the Risi district of the northern Jammu and Kashmir region. Lithium is referred to as white gold and is used in manufacturing items like phones, laptops, and electric vehicles. RT correspondent Rinjun Sharma tells us more.
India has discovered nearly 6 million tons of lithium in the state of Jammu and Kashmir in a district called Riyasi. And this is the first big find of lithium for India. In the past as well, in 2011, India had found lithium in the state of Karnataka, but it didn't really work out for two reasons. A, because it wasn't big quantity, and B, because it wasn't commercially viable. Now, this discovery is a big deal for India, and I'll tell you why. Because for India, electronic vehicle policy, a formulation of that, is very, very important at this stage, given the fact that India is also dealing with pollution crisis. Many metros have seen bad air quality levels, including New Delhi, where I am right now, for example, which is the world's worst polluted capital city. Now, formulation of an electronic vehicle policy with the discovery of lithium is possible. Why? Because lithium is used for making electronic vehicle batteries, also mobile phones and laptops, but electronic vehicle batteries, making them and then penetrating EVs into the mainstream onto roads is going to be a priority for India. Now, India does import a lot of lithium, and in the past few years, India has been wanting to cut down on these imports, considering India's policy also really has been to be self-reliant in every sector, in every area. And therefore, this discovery of lithium for India is a magical one and a very, very significant one.
In New Zealand, residents are bracing themselves for the effects of a cyclone that has begun pummeling the northern tip of the country. Cyclone Gabriela is forecast to envelop the upper half of the North Island over a 48-hour period. Authorities say thousands of homes are left without power and flights are grounded as Gabriela lashed New Zealand. An emergency management official adds it would be a critical day due to the highly dangerous combination of high winds and heavy rain. Ukraine. Just 2 weeks ago, the same part of the country experienced devastating flooding. Auckland remains under a state of emergency after flash floods swamped the city. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins warns everyone to be ready to face the threats posed by flooding, huge ocean swells, and strong winds. He says people must be prepared and know where to go in the event they need to evacuate their homes. The storm is forecast to weaken today and tomorrow. Up next, Canada imposes additional sanctions on Russia. 250,000 people rally in Madrid for better public health care. And thousands take to the streets in Tel Aviv to protest proposed legal reforms. Please stay tuned. Mata ng Agila International will return with more global news.
Pasiglahin ang araw ng linggo. Kayo'y maaantig.
Huwag mo ubusin ang luha mo sa wala dito.
Mapapaisip.
What are we gonna do?
Matatawa.
Why so much food? Even no money, no honey, we make utang-utang.
Mapapahanga. At mapapainda. Kasama si The King, ang nag-iisang comedy king Dolphy.
Ano pangalan mo? Big po. Big po. Ano mo si Fernando po?
Tito Vic and Joey.
Mahirap ikwento, Vicky. Mahabang istorya.
At marami pang artista na pinagigiliwan noon magpahanggang ngayon. Cine Throwback. Tuwing linggo, alas 12 ng tanghali sa Net 25.
Panalo tayo pag together, walang talo pag together. Let's stand together sa Net 25.
The Asian community in Houston, Texas is upset over a proposed law. This law would ban Chinese citizens from buying property in the state on national security grounds. The law would also bar Russians, Iranians, and North Koreans from owning real estate. Local lawmaker Gene Wu says for too long, his community has been used as a scapegoat for the rest of the world.
So during COVID-19, people blamed Asian Americans, people here, for the problems that came from other parts of the world. And we're finally going to stand up and say no more. The Asian Americans here, the Chinese Americans, we are not responsible for anything that goes on in the rest of the world. We live in this country and we want to be a part of this country, and our community is not going to take discrimination and hatred and violence against our community anymore, and we're here to say no more.
Several other states are considering similar legislation.
Canada enforces more sanctions against Russia and individuals and organizations in the country that it says are complicit in distributing misinformation. Yolanda Aspiras tells us more.
Canada remains firm in its effort to weaken Russia's ability to fund its war against Ukraine by enforcing more price caps on Russian petroleum and imposing more sanctions against specific individuals and organizations. Canada, alongside its G7 partners and Australia, are putting a price cap for petroleum products coming from Russia. This week, the maximum price for Russian petroleum products will be $100 per barrel for premium to crude petroleum and $45 for discount to crude products. Price caps have been designed to reduce Russian revenues and weaken its ability to support its war. Canada is also sanctioning 38 more individuals and 16 organizations that it regards as complicit in distributing disinformation and propaganda. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau continues to call Russia's war against Ukraine brutal and barbaric. Reporting from Toronto, Canada, Yolanda Aspiras for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A British anti-refugee protest turned violent and resulted in 3 arrests. The rally was staged by far-right protesters. The trouble began Friday night outside a hotel in Liverpool that is being used to house asylum seekers. Demonstrators threw objects at police and damaged a police vehicle. A local newspaper says protesters set a police riot van on fire. According to the paper, the fire grew and the van exploded. Black-clad protesters also clashed with police in riot gear. A refugee group held a counter-protest.
There is a new face on the latest issue of British postage stamps. Britain's Royal Mail unveils the first stamps to feature the image of King Charles III. The new so-called definitive stamp is intended for everyday use. It features the monarch's head, the stamp's value, and a barcode. It goes on sale April 4th. The image has been approved by the king himself. It is an adaptation of the image that appears on new coins in the UK. The design shows King Charles III facing left. That's the same as all monarchs have done on stamps since the penny black was issued as the world's first postage stamp in 1840 under Queen Victoria. Royal Mail Chief Executive Simon Thompson says the stamps are unique. He says they do not have the country of origin printed on them, as the image of the monarch is enough.
Former Foreign Minister Nikos Christodoulides was elected President of the Republic of Cyprus. At 49 years old, he is the youngest leader of the divided Mediterranean island nation. The seasoned politician gained 51.92% of the vote in a runoff on Sunday. He was widely tapped as a favorite even before last Sunday's first round of voting. Christodoulides is seen as an independent backed by centrist parties. It is the first time a president has been elected without the support of the 2 largest parties, JC and the communist Agila. After his victory was announced, Christodoulides said he wanted to meet with the leaders of both parties.
The European Commission says the Eurozone economy will grow more than previously forecast in 2023 as the energy crisis eases and the single currency area narrowly avoids recession. The EU's executive arm says the 20-nation area's economy is now expected to expand by 0.9% instead of 0.3%, as favorable developments helped it weather the fallout of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Inflation is also expected to slow more than previously forecast after the war sent oil and gas prices soaring last year. Inflation is forecast to hit 5.6% this year, with the Commission saying it appeared the peak is now behind us after a record high of 10.6% in October. The European Central Bank and peers around the world launched a series of interest rate hikes last year in efforts to tame soaring inflation.
In Spain, 250,000 protesters fill the streets of Madrid. They are upset over the capital region's failing public health system. The service is suffering from shortages of staff and equipment. The primary care system has been under stress for years. That's prompted many people to turn to hospital emergency departments for routine health issues, overwhelming those resources. The protesters want the government to put more money into the public health care system. They accuse the government of prioritizing private health care. They add the system has really deteriorated since the pandemic. The region's right-wing leader claims the protests are motivated by political interests. The doctors' union in Madrid is seeking better working conditions and higher pay. Some physicians have been striking on and off since last November. Sunday's protest is the 3rd in Madrid in the last 3 months.
As wildfires continue to ravage forests in Chile, Here's an astounding story of how a man survived the flames. Take a look. Pedro Aroca lives in the small Chilean city of Santa Juana. As the fires encroached upon his community, he says he adopted a warlike attitude. Aroca says he grabbed the water pump hose and started spraying water. But despite his efforts, the fire spread. Unable to control the flames, Aroca sought refuge in a clay oven. He hid there with his dog. A little over an hour later, his son-in-law and nephew came by and rescued him. He says when he returned to Santa Juana the next day, everything was burned.
In what has become a weekly tradition, tens of thousands of Israelis rallied Saturday evening in central Tel Aviv. This for the 6th consecutive week. They denounced proposed legal reforms pushed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's right-wing government. Israeli media estimate the crowd at about 50,000. This is the largest yet since the protests began. Many protesters waved blue and white Israeli flags and other banners. Some of the demonstrators shout they will not give up. The proposed reforms would allow Israel's parliament to overrule any Supreme Court decision with a simple majority of lawmakers. It would also increase political control over the system through which judges are appointed. A first reading of that bill is set for today. Leaders of the protest movement have called for a strike at the same time. Opponents say the reforms are a threat to democracy.
A massive demonstration in Nicaragua over the weekend. Thousands of demonstrators march in support of the government's move to expel more than 200 critics of President Daniel Ortega. Last week, the Central American nation released 222 detained dissidents and exiled them to the United States. Pro-government demonstrators marched through the capital of Managua Saturday. Waving flags, they chanted pro-administration and anti-opposition slogans. Some even carried balloons in the shape of an airplane. This is a reference to the chartered flight that took the exiles to the United States. Nicaragua's legislature has moved to strip the dissidents of their citizenship. That still has to be voted on to become law. Spain has offered them citizenship. Those exiled had been arrested in 2018 in a wave of repression that followed protests demanding that Ortega resign. Since 2007, he had engaged in increasingly authoritarian practices.
Activists from Greenpeace and a 13-day occupation of a Shell oil drilling platform being towed to the North Sea. Protesters have been demanding the Anglo-Dutch oil giant to stop drilling and start paying for climate damage. 4 protesters boarded the platform north of the Canary Islands on January 31st. They were joined later by 2 more activists. They climbed the rig's 125-meter flare boom and waved a banner reading "Stop drilling, start paying." After nearly 2 weeks, they disembarked at a port in southwest Norway. It's the longest Greenpeace has occupied a moving oil platform. The protest ended without any arrests.
Argentina issues health warnings to 9 southern and central provinces as the country bakes in its worst heat wave in 6 decades. And people are doing what they can to try to cool off in temperatures that are close to 40 degrees Celsius. The current hot spell is the 8th to hit the country this summer. Over the past 10 years, Argentina has never seen more than 4 or 5 such heat waves per season. The 3 months from last November to January have been the warmest period since 1961. The National Weather Service says temperatures are 1.7 degrees Celsius higher than normal. Climate change is being blamed for the more persistent and intense heat. The high temperatures are expected to begin to drop in the central region of the country tomorrow. But in the north, the heat will likely persist for up to 10 days. Coming right up, Adidas warns of losses from Yeezy fallout. A Mars Wrigley factory is fined after 2 workers fall into a chocolate bath. And the Chiefs beat the Eagles at the Super Bowl. Catch more news when Mata ng Agila International returns.
Oh no! Para stress-free ang 2023, mag-tune in lagi.
Spaghetti pa, baba.
Lahat ay napapasayaw sa saya. Ay, tumigil eh. May napapatalon sa ligaya. May napapasigaw sa gulat. Oh no! Oh no! At pati mga artista, nakiki-join force pa.
Tayo nakatingin.
Yon! Oh no! Tuloy-tuloy ang tawa at saya. Huwag nang magpaiwan pa. Takbo! Oh no! Dapat memorize na yan. Tuwing Sabado, alas 8 ng gabi, kung saan kayong bida at lahat ay kasama. Ang pinakakwela at pinakamasayang prank show ng bayan.
Tinaka. Joey! Joey! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! It's B.O. Beer only. Wow!
Sabi ko na nga ba eh.
Sabi ko na
It's Biro Only.
Tabi!
Dito sa Net 25.
Together, let's stand together. Sa Net 25.
A Russian resupply freighter fills up the cupboards of the International Space Station. The Soyuz 2 rocket blasted off from a launch pad in Kazakhstan. It lifted a Progress MS-22 supply ship into space. The mission carries 3 tons of goods for the 7 astronauts and cosmonauts aboard the space station. Included in the shipment are nitrogen, water, and dry goods, including some spare parts.
Adidas is expecting to report a loss in 2023 after terminating a lucrative deal with rap artist Ye, formerly Kanye West, after he made a series of anti-Semitic and racist remarks. The firm said it would end production of the highly successful Yeezy line designed together with West, which has brought in huge profits. The company is now trying to decide what to do with $1.3 billion of the artist's unsold Yeezy branded merchandise. Adidas's net income fell heavily in 2022. Net income for last year was $272 million, a nearly 83% drop from $1.49 billion in 2021.
A Mars Wrigley factory has been fined after 2 workers fell into chocolate vat. The factory in the city of Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, was fined more than $14,500 by the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. The workers were contractors that did not work full-time for the factory. The incident happened in June of 2022. A hole had to be cut into the bottom of the partly full tank to get them out.
The Kansas City Chiefs rallied to beat the Philadelphia Eagles 38-35 in Super Bowl 57. The Chiefs erased a 10-point halftime deficit to add the title to the one that capped their 2019 season. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs overcame the inspired Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts to win their second NFL title in 4 seasons. It was the first time a quarterback had scored 3 rushing touchdowns in a Super Bowl.
Leaders Arsenal has dropped more points in their pursuit of a first Premier League title since 2004. On the other hand, Tottenham Hotspur's winning run ended abruptly at Leicester City. Our UK correspondent Keith Timabuyu tells us more.
Arsenal stumbled again as the Premier League leaders were held to a 1-1 draw by Brentford, while Tottenham's top four hopes were dented by an embarrassing 4-1 defeat at Leicester on Saturday. Mikel Arteta's side could have moved 8 points clear of second-place Manchester City with a victory at the Emirates Stadium. The Gunners still control their destiny as they chase a first Premier League title since 2004, but champions Manchester City moved to within 3 points when they defeated Aston Villa on Sunday. Arsenal host City on Wednesday in a clash that will go on a long way to deciding the title race. Tottenham boss Antonio Conte was back at the helm after missing last weekend's 1-0 win against Manchester City following gallbladder surgery, but his fifth-place side were humiliated at the King Power Stadium. Graham Potter admitted Chelsea are still a work in progress after their winless Premier League run extended to 3 games, as João Felix's first goal for the Blues was cancelled out by Emerson in a 1-1 draw at West Ham. Potter's expensively assembled side once again failed to live up to their price tags as the pressure mounted on the Blues boss. From the United Kingdom, this is Keith Timabuyu for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Award-winning writer and novelist Luwalhati Bautista has passed away at the age of 77. One of her grandchildren confirmed the news in a social media post. Her family did not disclose the cause of her death. Luwalhati penned Dekada 70, Gapo, and Bata Bata Paano Ka Ginawa. She was once the vice president of the Screenwriters Guild of the Philippines. She was given a Diwata Award for Best Writer during the 16th International Women's Film Festival at the UP Film Center. Bautista was active in voicing out her political and social system concerns.
Global girl group Fourth Impact opted to perform live even after a member of their group fainted on stage. Video footage shows Selena experiencing health problems and feeling dizzy. She then fainted. Net25's medical team and management rushed to the scene and helped Selena. Selena was given a medical clearance and joined her sisters to perform on stage. They sang a rendition of BTS's Dynamite T. They also had a version of Rise Up and a mashup of songs from the musical movie The Greatest Showman.
South Korean actor Yoo Ah-in, known for his roles in movies Punch, Burning, and Hellbound, has tested positive for marijuana use. The Korean actor underwent a drug test as part of an investigation into his alleged illegal use of anesthetic medication propofol. His urine and hair samples were tested, with the urine testing positive for cannabis. Results from his hair sample have not yet been announced. The actor is being investigated for alleged habitual use of propofol. Propofol is used to put you to sleep and keep you asleep during general anesthesia for surgery or other medical procedures. It is regarded in South Korea as a psychotropic drug. The use of propofol is highly regulated in the country, making it illegal to use without the need for a medical procedure. United Artists Agency released an official statement in response to the reports, confirming that the actor had recently been investigated. The statement says the actor is actively cooperating in all investigations and will proactively address the aspects that are a problem. The agency apologized for causing concern.
In Singapore, fans of the international box office movie Avatar get the opportunity to feel the Pandora experience. Our very own Jeff Sanidad traveled all the way to Gardens by the Bay to see it for himself. And today he gets to share it with us. Take a look.
14 years ago, when the first Avatar movie was released, fans were introduced to a magnificent fiction world of Na'vi-inhabited Pandora. Join us as we explore and connect with this fictional alien world of Pandora. Let's get a glimpse of its bioluminescent environments, mystical creatures, flora, and the captivating culture of its indigenous people, the Na'vi. Inspired by the unique storytelling of James Cameron, the globally highest-grossing film of all time, Avatar, visitors are welcomed by its iconic vision of waterfalls, spiraling walkways, and a unique architectural glass greenhouse. Take a closer look at the creatures like Prolimerus, Viper Wolf, Hammerhead Titanothere, and a collection of flora like Fiddlehead, Scorpion Tizzle, wild orchids, and many more. Enjoy a close encounter with a full-scale parent banshee in motion. Interact up close with the first realization of a baby banshee and a viper wolf pup. To take it a bit further, visitors can avatarize themselves using an AVTR program. This simulates the avatar creation of human to Na'vi. At the end of the simulation, you can picture yourself as a Na'vi. The Lost World allows guests to see the amazing plants from all over the world that inspired the collections of flora of Pandora, all of which you will only see in the exhibit. Experience flying a banshee connected to you. Remember to feel the connection. See the Ilu, exclusively premiered in Singapore, the new marine creature from the Avatar, The Way of Water. Discover their natural habitat representation and how gracefully they can swim. Visitors to Cloud Forest featuring Avatar at Gardens by the Bay are in for something amazing. Be among the first people on the planet to see, explore, and connect with this spectacular story told like never before. This exhibit will be open until March 31st, 2023. Jeff Sanidad, Singapore, Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
South Korea's iced Americano fans are dedicated to drinking cold coffee year-round. The drink is made with shots of espresso served over ice and topped up with water. Data shows the humble coffee is outselling its hot counterpart even during the depths of winter. Many South Koreans drink iced Americano regardless of the season, saying it's refreshing. Others say it is easier to drink and also tastier, making it enjoyable to drink even in cold weather.
It's the piping hot Americano for you and me.
We like hot drinks. Well, to help you start this week, here's a quote from Stephen Covey, an American educator. Live out of your imagination, not your history.
Because our imagination is limitless.
That's true. You know, I feel bad for people who say, I cannot be like this because we're poor. I cannot be like this because my family's like this. No, you cannot let those hold you back. Move forward.
It's sad because it stunts you and you are not able to move forward.
See, you just move forward, be imaginative. What can I do to get out of this place?
That should always be the goal.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am CJ Hero.
And I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.